Ribbon. Before we begin this heart-touching story, don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment, because stories like these remind us that kindness still exists in this world. Ribbon. The wind was cold that night, and the neon lights of the toy store reflected in the tear-filled eyes of a little girl pressing her hands against the glass. Inside, a shelf full of Barbie dolls shimmered under the soft lights, pink dresses, golden hair, perfect smiles. Outside, her mother stood silently, clutching an empty wallet and a heart full of pain. "I'm sorry, sweetie," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I can't afford a Barbie for your birthday." The little girl didn't say a word. She just looked up at her mother, smiled softly, and said, "That's okay, Mama. Maybe next year." What neither of them knew, was that someone inside the store, someone powerful, someone broken in his own way, had heard every single word. And that single whisper was about to change all their lives forever. It had been a long day for Sarah, a single mom working 2 jobs. Her uniform still smelled faintly of coffee beans from the morning shift at the cafe, and her hands were raw from scrubbing tables at the diner in the evening. Every night, she came home exhausted, but seeing her little girl, Lila, running toward her with open arms made every drop of pain worth it. Tomorrow was Lila's birthday. She'd been talking for weeks about the Barbie with the pink car. Sarah had smiled, pretending it was possible. But the truth was harsh: her rent was due, her electricity bill was pending, and she barely had enough money to buy a small cake. That evening, after her shift, she took Lila to the toy store, not to buy, but just to look. She wanted her daughter to dream, even if she couldn't make that dream real. As Sarah watched Lila's eyes sparkle, her own heart broke quietly. She knew she had to say it, the truth she'd been avoiding. "I can't afford a Barbie for your birthday," she whispered, her voice cracking. And that's when he looked up. Ethan Cole, the CEO of the very company that owned the chain of toy stores, had come in unannounced that night to check on customer service. He was dressed simply, no suit, no bodyguards, just a lonely man in a world built on success. He had everything money could buy, but nothing that truly mattered anymore. Not since his own daughter had passed away 3 years ago. When he heard Sarah's words, something deep inside him stirred. The tone, the heartbreak, the love. It reminded him of his late wife's voice, the same tremor of pain she had when their child was gone. He watched Sarah gently take Lila's hand and walk out of the store, tired, defeated, but still trying to smile for her daughter. He couldn't let that moment pass. The next morning, as Sarah prepared Lila's birthday breakfast, just toast and jam with one small candle, there was a knock at the door. She opened it to find a man in a gray coat, holding a large pink box and a card. "Delivery for Miss Lila," he said with a kind smile. Sarah froze. "There must be some mistake," she murmured. But before she could say more, Lila ran forward and gasped. Inside the box was the exact Barbie doll with the pink car. Tears filled her little eyes as she looked at her mother. "Mama! You got it for me." Sarah's throat tightened. She didn't understand who had sent it, but seeing Lila's joy, her laughter, her dancing around the room, made her forget her confusion for a moment. Then she saw the card. It read, "For a little girl whose dreams deserve to come true. E.C." She stared at the initials, unsure what they meant. But the warmth in those simple words made her eyes glisten. That evening, there was another knock at the door. This time, it was Ethan Cole himself. Sarah stood frozen, unsure how to react. Ethan smiled gently. "I hope you don't mind me stopping by. I'm the one who sent the gift." Her voice trembled. "Why would you do that for us?" He hesitated, looking down. "Because I once had a daughter who loved Barbie dolls too. And I couldn't stand to hear another child's birthday be filled with sadness." Silence hung between them, a silence filled with gratitude, pain, and something unspoken. Ethan glanced around the tiny apartment, cracked walls, old furniture, but an atmosphere filled with love. "You're doing a wonderful job raising her," he said softly. Sarah shook her head. "I'm just trying to survive." He looked at her with an intensity that made her heart skip. "You're doing more than surviving, Sarah. You're teaching her what real love looks like." Before leaving, Ethan handed her an envelope. "Please, don't think of this as charity. Think of it as an opportunity." Inside was a job offer, a position at one of his company's offices, with decent pay, healthcare, and a flexible schedule. Sarah couldn't believe her eyes. "Why me?" she whispered. He smiled. "Because people like you remind the world that good hearts still exist." Months passed. Sarah's life slowly changed. She started her new job, earning enough to move into a small but cozy apartment. Lila joined a better school, always carrying her pink Barbie wherever she went. Ethan often visited, not as a CEO, but as a friend. Over time, he found in Sarah and Lila the family warmth he had lost, and they found in him the hope they had been missing. On Lila's next birthday, Ethan was there, not as a stranger with gifts, but as someone who had become part of their story. This time, when Lila blew out her candles, she said, "Mama, my wish already came true." Sarah smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. And as Ethan watched them, he realized, sometimes the richest people are not those with the most money, but those with the biggest hearts. Sparkles, if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Because sometimes, one act of kindness can change a life forever. Sparkles.